My wife gave me an ultimatum, her or my mom. Now she's gone. $10 K is missing, and I just uncovered her biggest lie. 2 days ago, my wife sat me down and said, "You need to choose. It's either me or your mom." I swear I froze. I was in the middle of watching something on my phone, and for a second I thought I misheard her. "What?" I laughed awkwardly because it sounded ridiculous, but her face was serious, stone cold. "Choose," she repeated. "I can't live like this anymore. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't screaming. She just looked at me, like she was daring me to argue, and that made it so much worse. Let me back up for a second because I know people are going to ask, what's the deal with your mom? Is she that bad? Here's the thing, my mom is a good person. She's kind, supportive, and maybe a little over-involved sometimes, but never in a toxic way. She raised me alone after my dad took off, so we're close, not in a creepy or unhealthy way, just close. My wife, on the other hand, has never liked her. I used to think it was just the usual in-law tension you hear about. Little passive-aggressive comments here and there. My wife would complain that my mom was always hovering, but I never saw it. For example, my mom has this habit of cooking meals and dropping them off unannounced. She just does it to be nice. It's how she shows love. One time, my wife told me she felt disrespected by it because it was like my mom thought she couldn't take care of me. I thought she was overreacting, but I let it go. But now, it's escalated to an ultimatum. When she said those words, me or your mom, I sat there like an idiot. My mind was racing. Where was this coming from? What did she mean she can't live like this? What had my mom actually done to deserve being cut out of my life? You can't be serious, I finally said. You're making me choose between my wife and my mom. That's not fair. She crossed her arms and didn't blink. What's not fair is that I've been putting up with this for years. Your mom's in our marriage. She's a third person here. I asked her for specifics. What was my mom doing that was so horrible? She threw out the same vague complaints. She's always around. She lives across town and only visits a couple times a month. She undermines me. I still don't know what this means. She doesn't respect boundaries. That last one stuck with me. I asked, what boundaries? Her voice went up like showing up unannounced, calling you every day. You never tell her no, even when I ask you to. The thing is, I thought this was normal. Isn't it normal for a mom to call her son? Isn't it normal to check in on each other? I never saw it as a problem, and maybe that's where I screwed up. I didn't realize she saw this as a bigger issue. I tried to de-escalate. I told her we could talk to a therapist if she felt like my mom was overstepping, but she shut it down immediately. "No, I'm done talking," she said. "I need to know you're putting me first. I'm your wife." She packed a bag that night. I swear to God, I couldn't believe it. She grabbed a duffel bag, stuffed it with clothes, and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" I asked, standing there like a total idiot. "To my sister's." I followed her to the door, begging her to slow down. I told her I couldn't just make that decision, that it wasn't fair to pit two people I love against each other. And then she hit me with the line that's been replaying in my head ever since. "I hope you like being a mama's boy forever." She slammed the door behind her. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. I started questioning myself. Am I in the wrong? Is my mom actually overstepping, and I've been too blind to see it? I replayed every interaction between my wife and my mom, looking for something I missed. But here's the thing. My mom has never said anything bad about my wife. Not once. She's always been polite, even when my wife has been cold. I just can't figure out what's so bad that my wife would give me an ultimatum like this. At the same time, I couldn't stop thinking about what my wife said, put me first. Am I not putting her first? Should I have been more firm with my mom? Or is this an excuse for something deeper? The next morning, I texted her. I said we needed to talk because I couldn't make this choice overnight. I was expecting a fight, maybe an argument. Instead, she sent me one text back. "When you're ready to choose, let me know." That was it. No, I love you. No, let's work on this. Just an ultimatum in a text. And now I'm sitting here wondering what the hell I'm supposed to do. I love my wife. I married her because I saw a future with her. But I can't just cut my mom out of my life for no reason. I feel like I'm being punished for something I don't understand. And here's the thing, I don't even know if I want to fight for this marriage anymore. Because what kind of person walks out over something like this? What kind of person forces someone to choose like it's some kind of game? I haven't talked to my mom about it yet. I'm too embarrassed to tell her. What would I even say? Hey, Mom, my wife thinks you're the devil, and she's making me pick between you two. But at the same time, I keep asking myself, if I cave now, what's next? Will I have to keep proving I put her first over and over again? Is this the hill my marriage is going to die on? And deep down, I'm starting to wonder, did she just want an excuse to leave? I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I feel lost, hurt, and kind of blindsided. But one thing's for sure, I don't think this is about my mom. Not really. I'll update you all soon. But right now, I'm sitting here with the most uncomfortable question I've ever had to ask myself. What if the person I married isn't the person I thought she was? Update, if you read my last post, you know my wife hit me with an ultimatum. Choose between her or my mom. She packed her bag and left after I told her I couldn't make that choice. At the time, I thought this was about petty grievances, like my mom dropping off meals or calling too often. I was so wrong. It's been a couple of days since she left, and I've been stuck in this weird fog like nothing makes sense anymore. I tried to keep myself busy with work, but my mind kept circling back to one thing. Why? Why now? Why was this ultimatum suddenly so urgent? I kept replaying everything, trying to figure out if I'd missed something. And then, yesterday morning, I got the first clue. My phone buzzed with a message from my sister. You need to see this. She sent me screenshots. My sister is friends with one of my wife's old coworkers, someone I've never met. And somehow, this person stumbled across a group chat where my wife had been venting about me and my mom. The screenshots hit me like a punch to the gut. My wife had been trashing me to her friends for weeks. She called me a spineless mama's boy and said my mom was manipulative and controlling. But that's not what got me. The part that broke me was one specific message. If he doesn't cut her off, I'll leave. I don't care. I can't deal with her and him forever. He's too stupid to see what's going on. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Too stupid to see what? I didn't even know what she was talking about. I showed my sister, and even she was floored. She's been planning to leave, my sister said. She's just looking for a reason. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about my mom. My wife didn't suddenly snap because of some boundary being crossed. She's been building toward this for a while, and I've been too clueless to notice. I needed answers. I texted my wife, we need to talk. She ignored me all day. By night time, I couldn't sit still anymore. My mind was racing with questions. What was she hiding? What had she been telling her friends? I opened our shared bank account to see if she'd been spending money since she left. And there it was. A $10,000 withdrawal from our joint savings account. She pulled the money out 2 days before giving me the ultimatum. I just sat there, staring at the screen, my heart pounding. What the hell was going on? I wanted to believe there was some logical explanation, but let's be real. People don't just pull $10,000 out of savings for no reason. It felt like betrayal. That's our money. It's not just hers. Did she think I wouldn't notice, or did she not care? I didn't sleep. Again. The next morning I called her. She picked up on the third try. Her tone was cold. What do you want? What's going on? I asked. You took $10,000 out of our savings. Why? Her response chilled me. Because I needed it. For what? I demanded. You left without telling me anything. And now I find out you're taking our money, she sighed. Like I was exhausting her. I can't deal with you and your mom anymore. I needed a break. And I needed some money to sort myself out. But $10,000? I shot back. You don't just walk out and empty our account without telling me. That's insane. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. Instead, she doubled down. If you'd just grown a spine and put me first, we wouldn't be here. You and your mom created this mess, not me. I swear to God, I almost threw my phone. Her words felt like gaslighting, like she was blaming me for something I didn't even understand. After we hung up, I called my mom. I hadn't told her anything up until that point because I didn't want to stress her out. She answered cheerfully, completely unaware. Hey, sweetie, how's everything? And suddenly I felt this wave of guilt. How do you tell your mom that your wife thinks she's the villain, that she left because of her? But I had to say something, so I started slow. Mom, did something happen between you and my wife? Like recently? She paused, confused. No, I mean, I don't think so. Why? So I told her everything. About the ultimatum, about the money, about the messages I'd seen. I expected her to get defensive, maybe upset. But instead, she sounded hurt. I never wanted to come between you two. I don't understand where this is coming from. I've always tried to stay out of your marriage. And that's true. She's never overstepped, not in any major way. If anything, she's been overly careful because she's always worried about being seen as that kind of mother-in-law. But here's the part that blew my mind. My mom hesitated and then said quietly, she asked me about money once, a while back. She was asking about my will. What? I felt my stomach drop. She asked if I had plans to leave you anything and if I'd ever consider helping you two out financially. It was strange, but I didn't think much of it. I just told her that I'd planned to leave whatever I have to you one day. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife had been asking my mom about her finances without telling me. The puzzle pieces started clicking together. She gave me an ultimatum about my mom. She pulled $10,000 out of our account. She'd been venting to her friends about how I'm too stupid to see what's going on. And now I find out she was asking about inheritance. It felt like someone pulled the rug out from under me. This wasn't about boundaries. It wasn't about my mom being controlling. This was about money. She thought my mom had some massive inheritance stashed away, and she wanted to get her hands on it. And when she realized my mom wasn't handing out cash, she started looking for ways to cut her out of the picture. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just manipulation. It was calculated. She'd planned this. I don't even know who I married anymore. I spent years loving someone who's clearly been hiding who she really is. And the craziest part is, I'm not even sure if this is the end of it. What else has she done behind my back? Final update. After my mom told me about the will conversation, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I knew I had to confront my wife, but this wasn't something I could do over a phone call. I needed to look her in the eye and hear her explain herself. I called her and said, "We need to meet in person." Her response was cold and detached, like she wasn't talking to her husband anymore. "Fine, come over to my sister's tomorrow." That night I barely slept again. My thoughts spiraled. Was any of this real? Did she ever love me? Or was I just part of her plan? Every memory I had of her now felt tainted, like I'd been living in someone else's version of reality. The next day I showed up at her sister's house. She met me outside. I'll never forget how she looked. Calm, composed, like she'd already made her decision, and I was just a formality. "Let's talk in the car," she said. We sat there in silence for a moment before I started. "I know you took the $10,000. I know you asked my mom about her will. What the hell is going on?" She sighed, like this was exhausting for her. "I did what I had to do. You and your mom have a weird relationship. She controls you, whether you see it or not." "How is asking about her will doing what you had to do?" I shot back. "How does taking our money fix anything?" Her expression shifted slightly. For the first time, I saw a flicker of guilt. Or maybe she realized I wasn't as clueless as she thought. But then, just like that, she went cold again. "I wanted security," she said flatly. "You'll never put me first as long as she's around. I thought if I could get you to see how toxic she is, you'd wake up. But you didn't." So I left. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She wasn't even denying it. "So this was all about the money, about my mom. I wouldn't have had to do any of this if you'd grown a spine." She snapped. I've spent years playing second to that woman. I'm done, that was it. Years of marriage, years of love and trust, boiled down to I'm done. No accountability, no apology, just blame. At that moment, I made up my mind. I told her, you're right. You are done. We're done. I'll have the divorce papers ready this week. For the first time, she looked surprised. I don't think she expected me to stand up for myself. She started to stammer. Wait, what? You wanted me to choose. And I'm choosing myself, I said. I'm not going to be manipulated. I'm not going to let you treat me like a fool. I opened the car door, got out, and walked away. It felt like a movie scene, except this wasn't a movie. This was my life, and I was watching it fall apart. You'd think that would be the end of it. I thought so too. But I underestimated just how deep this rabbit hole went. A few days later, I got a call from my sister. You're not going to believe this, she said. Apparently, my wife had been reaching out to my estranged father. For context, my dad walked out when I was a kid. I haven't spoken to him in over 20 years. My mom doesn't talk about him, and I honestly don't care to know where he is or what he's doing. But my wife, she tracked him down. She'd been messaging him for months behind my back, asking about my family's finances. My sister found this out because my dad's new wife, who we don't even know, reached out to her on Facebook. She thought my wife's behavior was weird and wanted to know if everything was okay. Weird doesn't even begin to cover it. I was speechless. Why would she even think to contact my dad? What was she hoping to gain? My family has no massive fortune. There's no hidden wealth, no trust funds. My mom's inheritance is modest at best. At that moment, it hit me. My wife had built this fantasy in her head where my mom was secretly hoarding money, and I was too stupid to realize it. She thought she could manipulate her way into controlling it. When it didn't work, she bylaid. This wasn't about love. It wasn't even about my mom. It was about greed, plain and simple. I filed for divorce the next day. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I didn't owe her any more explanations. A week later, she showed up at my apartment. I didn't let her in, but I talked to her through the door. She was crying, saying, I didn't mean for it to end like this. I told her, you ended it the moment you gave me that ultimatum. I'm not your pawn. I deserve better. She didn't argue. She just left. Looking back now, I feel like I've woken up from a bad dream. I spent so long second-guessing myself, wondering if I was the problem, if I'd been blind to my mom's behavior. But I see it clearly now. I married someone who didn't value me for me. She saw me as a means to an end, someone to manipulate, someone to control. My mom has been my rock through all of this. She never once said, I told you so. She just listened and supported me like she always has.